jargons that are on the contrary of what's happening right now. We are on self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter, and we are going to continue this self-defense until the aggressor take the lesson that it cannot just attack another country, another sovereign country, with or without knowing the European.
They destroyed 360 hospitals, and I've never heard about BBC talking about what the heck is going on. This is the British bullshit corporation. What a relief. Every time he says self-defense, she gets all agitated. Typical Beeb interview. Talk over those who give a different viewpoint. She did not let him speak, and that is disgraceful, right or wrong. He was asked to speak, and she was rude. I'm with Iran from New York. Do not disrespect and then play the victim. Shame on you, lady. Why is she interrupting him? Deputy Foreign Minister, and we know you're after our oil. Iran has the right to defend itself against any aggressor. What is going on, bro? What is going on? This is what I'm saying. Like, YouTube comments are usually the lowest common denominator, and a slop of some of the most reactionary fucking opinions you've ever encountered in the real world. And nowadays, the tide has shifted so aggressively that you got Westerners, like dumb kind of right-wing Westerners who normally have never seen a war that they don't like, okay, turning around and being like, actually, the Islamic Republic of Iran has a right to self-determination and defense, and they should be making a nuke immediately. Like, what? I never in my life thought that I would see the day, like, even with the anti-Israel sentiment overflowing and spilling over, that's one thing. But then to also take the offensive position, the anti-Western imperialist position, whether you even have the tools to recognize you're taking the anti-Western, anti-imperialist position at all, doesn't matter. But arriving at the correct conclusion that Israel is responsible for all of the pain and bloodshed in this fucking region, and therefore its enemies are probably not our enemies, but probably simply countries that are seeking to exist as sovereign states. It feels like a real vibe shift, okay? It feels like a real dramatic vibe shift. Long-term consequences of the past 20 months, Israel's overplayed their hand, committing atrocities, dragging us into wars, and policing free speech in America, all funded by taxpayers. This all predates 20 months, but by the way, current poll leadership may not have the courage, but we will. Negative views of Israel has risen in the U.S. Yeah, I mean, this is only, and America is still one of the most pro-Israel countries on the planet. I think this switch up isn't simply because Israel's done like tremendous bloodshed or whatever. I think a big part of the switch up also comes from the fact that people are just frustrated with our politics, man. I think the average person really recognizes that no politician gives a fuck. I think the post-Trump destruction of normal American politics is going to be severe, far more severe than we think. Because there are, I suspect, a lot of people who voted for Trump because he was supposed to be a different type of leader and represent even a mallet that will ruin the systems that have never served the American population. And this dynamic between politicians openly genuflecting and behaving like servile little demons to Israel, to Israel's interests, and placing Israel's interests over the interests of American citizens, that is inevitably going to cause anger and resentment even amongst some of the most loyal right-wing bases. Because, like, I didn't really think that the Trump administration, like, posturing as anti-war was going to create severe fissures, severe repercussions, and divide the base at all. Because I think most people just like think that they're anti-war, but they're not actually anti-war when push comes to shove. But at this point, it does feel as though there are at least some people who would probably be more on board with war if they were getting something in return. But if all you're seeing is a diminished status in the global stage, and if all you're seeing is yet another failed Iraq war 2.0, and if all you're seeing is, like, on the domestic front, no immediate improvement to your material conditions, You know, rent still as expensive as it ever was. Groceries are not more affordable. Your living standards are getting worse year over year. And there's a fuck ton of homeless people around, even if you don't recognize that that is born out of the unaffordability crisis in terms of housing. But like, when you fucking recognize the environment that you live in, you're like, why the fuck would I fight for this? Why would I feel patriotic about this? Now, will there be patriots out there who will delude themselves into thinking America number one, baby, who gives a fuck? Sure. But I do think that every person that sees an American politician that is supposed to represent them, representing Israel harder than they ever have represented their constituents, is going to inevitably breed tremendous resentment towards the political structure in its entirety. It feels like that is the main cause of this attitude shift. You can't have a servile public that is ready to go to war at a moment's notice if they don't believe that you are worth fighting for. You know, this is not supposed to be a fucking monarchy. You're not like a serf that is called to arms when the king decides, that when the king demands you have to go and fight. You know, that's not what this is supposed to look like. That's not what this is supposed to be, an evolution from that process, right? So I don't know. Things are more awful in the ashes. Things are more awful in the ashes of the 2001 to 2003 dynamic. And therefore, people are way, way, way less invested in going to war, and this time directly for Israel, after a year and a half of unlimited baby murder paid for with our tax dollars, as the Israeli government demands a pound of flesh in return, as the Israeli government says, you can't even fucking criticize this process, and our politicians play the role of loyal servants and continue trying to stop people from even having bad thoughts about Israel. I watched a streamer during the LA protest that used to be a Tim Pool fan and thought Trump would be a change, and now he regrets it and supports AOC because he sees everyone as a liar politician. He used to be in the Marines. Connor Habib. U.S. and or NATO war with Iran was signaled the complete divorce of Western governments and their citizens. This has already happened on a basic level, but it will be undeniable. There will be no regaining legitimation, only government force versus citizens fighting for total overhaul. Yeah, a big difference between now and right before we invaded Iraq is that almost no one in America wants or thinks we should go to war with Iran, and the people who do are barely even trying to justify it because they don't have to. That is basically where we're at. And I think a big part of this is, unironically, the constant lies that both parties have served people. Obviously, the most significant component here is that America didn't need to have a draft after 9/11, and that wasn't because of the poverty draft that existed. America didn't need to do forced conscription after 9/11 because of 9/11. I'm old enough, and I'm sure many of you are old enough to know this, or many of you are probably that probably saw that frenzied patriotism and joined the fucking military. That's why I always have jokingly said, and this might not be a joke any longer in the near future, but like, in the absence of another 9/11 style attack, it's very difficult to recover the draft numbers necessary. It's very difficult to recover the draft numbers necessary for this kind of like war on terror initiative. You know? Meanwhile, you still have people in the chat who are like, hey, this pedophilic Israeli VTuber was right about you. You should be embarrassed, I think. Like, that's crazy. Crazy admission, big dog.